so let's get into what a pen test is and how do you do it. Starting with the 7 stages of penetration testing, and this is arguable, right? Because somebody might have 5, somebody might have 20. We're trying to hit the big picture things here, right? So first, they're going to gather intel, same way a hacker would, right? They want to learn as much as possible. And it's depending on the type of pen test as to how much you start with, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Second is reconnaissance. So yes, we know who, and now we're trying to learn all the details of who, right? So IP addresses, domains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oftentimes information gathering in the way that's laid out here in these 7 steps is seen as passive information gathering. So really before touching the environment in question, whatever's in scope, you're doing online research. You're trying to figure out, well, what can I find out that's publicly available passively without touching the environment? That's usually what phase 1 is, and that's the difference between phase 1 and phase 2. Ron, maybe you have.
And what's useful to a hacker is not necessarily what you expect. We know from this presentation that Sean Scott is the CEO of Secular. Well, as a hacker, finding that information, I'm going to be trying S. Scott, Sean, and Sean.Scott as my logins because I know that. Information gathering is a lot more generic than you think. So is reconnaissance.
Right.
It's a lot more just, who are these people?
Yeah, and to your point, picking out high value targets, right? Depending on the environment that you're targeting, you might want to go after the head of IT, somebody who, if you were able to get their credentials, that would have a great impact in helping you achieve your goal.
Yeah, to be honest, some of the worst successful attacks I've seen recently were about that, right? They focused in and they gathered the credentials of one of the IT admins. And it just so happened that that was the highest level admin they needed to do all the damage they did. So it's really important. And that really leads into the next step, discovery and scanning, right? So once they know a little bit about us, the next thing is they're going to try and find ways in. Well, we call that scanning, right? They're looking for everything, trying to find a niche and a way in, a nick in our armor, if you will, or a hole in the castle wall. And from there, then they actually start to enumerate the vulnerabilities. Here's where it's kind of in line with an assessment, but not really. And we'll go into the difference there in a minute. But the point here is now they're finding vulnerabilities. They list those vulnerabilities, and then they exploit those vulnerabilities. Here's the key difference between an assessment and a pen test, is that exploitation. And how you do that and what the purpose of doing that and the tools you use and who's doing it are really important factors when we talk about exploitation and how that happens. Then we're going to get a final analysis and review, right? Did they get in? How they get in? They document all of that. And the point is so that you can then utilize the results to make it better. This is a perfect pen test in a perfect white hat kind of scenario. And we'll go into the concerns around that soon.